Hello and welcome to the Easily Excitable podcast. My name is Top and with me this week is Russell. Hey man, how's it going?
I'm doing great, thank you very much. Thank you for having me as always, good sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's been an interesting few weeks. It's been a while since I've spoken to you as well. Actually, there's been loads that have gone on. And like I don't know what was happening the last time we were talking. I was probably trawling through some data and trying to figure that out, and I was like, yes, I've got all this data, and you're just like, that is a pitiful amount of data. Ha ha!
Yeah, I might have been slightly raining on your parade of welcome to the world of big data, and and if so, I do sincerely apologize. It's just
No, it's
I remember those days.
Yeah. So yeah, things have just been going crazy at work. I've begun my immigration paperwork for the States, so that's all exciting and fun. So yeah, everything's going along, and life just seems real busy at the moment with loads of things going on. This week there's gonna be the Infinity War coming out. That's the thing.
Yes.
I'm kind of looking forward to that, so I'm just like, ooh, rub my hands because I've booked a ticket to go see it Saturday morning. Just like, yes.
Yeah, I haven't booked a ticket. I will probably there's a couple of cinemas between my work and my home, so
Hmm.
probably one evening I will just go online and grab a ticket.
Yeah.
It's fairly early on, probably not Thursday or Friday, but I will probably have it done before the end of Monday, just because I don't think I can sit on the internet without getting spoiled. So
Yeah. Hmm.
that's but yeah, it's interesting. I'm kind of a comic reader, but I've always been a little bit more on the DC side than Marvel, so I know roughly what's going to happen now, and in according to comics or whatever. But
Hmm.
there's already so much different with the cinematic universe that you might everything that I potentially know could actually just be not useful at all. So it's kind of interesting to just kind of go, yeah, I may actually have no idea how they're going to go with this, and then just
Yeah.
sit and enjoy the probably 3 hours plus of half of my favorite characters for the last 10 years being on the screen at the same time.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's been, yeah, I saw Black Panther way late. I think it was being shown twice a week at the cinema I went to, so that shows you how late in the cycle I saw that. But this time I'm just like, yeah, I don't really want anything to be spoiled because there is going to be so much going on with it, and there's going to be so many people seeing it. It's probably going to be the biggest opening weekend we'll have ever seen, I reckon. I
Yeah,
can't think of any reason why it wouldn't be.
yeah, it's
But
probably
I've
got to destroy all box office records.
yeah.
But yes, the main thing is that I don't know if anything will definitively happen in this encounter, as we obviously have the second part of the film coming in a year or two later. But
Yeah.
it's relatively certain that somebody big is going to not make it through the end of these films. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the potential for spoiler is quite high.
Yes, yeah. Oh god, I had it all in my head and then I forgot it. Yeah, I've only ever seen the trailer for it once, and that was before Black Panther.
Mhm.
I try to avoid trailers for things, but when you're in a cinema and it's playing right in front of you, there's not much you can do to get away from a trailer that's right in front of you. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I've started to basically turn up 50, 20 minutes late to showings, and you pretty much get in and you get maybe one or two trailers, and then the film starts. So,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
that,
Yeah, I think yeah, I should probably start doing that. But at the same time, like, I don't actually go and see enough films for that to really warrant happening. But we'll see what happens. Yeah. What else has been going on? Well, I've been keeping myself busy watching a lot of Rooster Teeth content, like a lot of Rooster Teeth content. Um,
yeah, I think I kind of maybe a couple of months ago slightly fell off the bandwagon. I had was doing a couple of things, kind of kept me really really busy. So the only things I was really keeping up to date with was like a couple of podcasts. So like the Rooster Teeth
yeah,
podcast and the Dude Soup podcast are probably
yeah,
the two that I kept through while I wasn't doing a load of other things.
yeah.
And then the last couple of weeks, I've binged so hard to kind of
Hmm.
catch a few series back up. So watch pretty much all of the Minecraft and Achievement Hunter and GTA Let's Plays that they've done,
Yeah.
and probably with Funhouse, I've watched all of the Google Trends shows because that's probably my favorite like series right now.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that actually. That's yeah, probably one of my favorite series as well. Um, I highly recommend checking out the Mario Party March that they did, and then Mario
I've
Kart April has also been excellent. So,
I just finished Mario Kart April this morning actually. So
mhm.
the revelry for Gavin and Michael at the final of that episode is
Yeah,
just it's wonderful. It's something that I can so relate to from like playing maybe even like Mario Kart 64 as a kid. There was just one of our friends who was just quite a bit better than everybody else in that game.
uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
when anybody else won, it was like we were all so happy. Like we didn't have
yeah,
to be the person who won. It was just Dave didn't win. So
yeah,
it was like
mm,
it's so glorious, and to see that, and I think I agree. The Mario Party ones were just phenomenal. I think the
mhm.
the It's All Coming Up Ryan was just amazing to
Yes.
see. Like I
Yeah,
don't know
because
how much.
that game, like nothing's fixed until the very end of the game,
Yeah, I
and
watched. I remember when or like when Game Attack first split across from Screw Attack, they had like their Mario Party Saturdays, and I've watched the first season, all of that. I haven't watched any of the more recent ones,
mhm.
but I love that with them kind of repeatedly playing it. They talked about like Chad's privilege, that kind of like the game always seemed to be kind of like running in his favor,
Yeah,
and when you see the Achievement Hunter guys play it, when you see Jeremy, Michael, Ryan, and Gavin play it, they were
hmm,
all going right. The game is in Michael's favor. The game is in Michael's favor, and then you
yeah,
just like it. You would kind of agree, and then just like it just takes a huge turn where it's
yeah,
just like, yeah, well, we've given you little things all the way, and now here's the slap to the face.
yeah. It's just an absolutely crazy series. I've enjoyed that. I'm just trying to think of other things that I'm watching. Oh, the new season of Red versus Blues just started as well, which is very interesting. But yeah, we're only 2 episodes into that, so there's not much I'm doing on theorizing just yet.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's a couple of interesting episodes. I think, like you say, let's let it go a little bit more to see kind of like what they're doing with it. The RVB historically is in my head always ran in kind of like threes, like the seasons, or so you have all these different arcs that kind of will get cut eventually, and I feel that obviously kind of like last season was an interesting but kind of like a stopgap season of like retelling a load of different stories that went on in the universe.
yeah.
Whereas you kind of going like, well, this is maybe the universe moving in a step forward again.
Hmm.
So it's interesting to see like what they're going to go with. It's kind of I would be really interested to see, and whenever we'll find this out, like what like the viewing figures are for Red versus Blue,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
I don't know how many people who maybe haven't watched it for 5, maybe 10 years would actually come into it now. Because I don't think you can. Well, you can maybe come into it and watch season 16 and just be like, okay, this is fine. But I don't know if anybody's going to be really going like, oh wow, 16 seasons. Let's go watch season one right away and kind of like catch up as fast as I can. I don't
Yeah.
know if that viewership is kind of like ever so slightly decreasing as time goes on.
Hmm. Yeah. It seems like you've got to be committed to it to really watch it from start to finish. But yeah, I'm also interested in like how many people do watch it on the Rooster Teeth site. I think the closest we've got really is Ruby because that's released a week later on YouTube. I
Yeah,
guess Red versus Blue is as well, but
but not this. No, not. They've said
no.
that this year that it's not going to be shown on YouTube at all.
Ooh,
So
interesting.
they're doing what they did more like 6 or 7 years ago, where like YouTube was like a season behind at one point,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
this time they're just not showing any of the season whatsoever, which is I think that says something about the viewership figures, that they realize that they're probably not going to lose anything out by doing that, or just kind
Yeah.
of going like, let's just the core people, like, we know that they watch this here instead of watching it kind of like elsewhere. Maybe there's like viewership figures on like how many of those people are first, or
Hmm.
like I say,
Yeah.
that's just the data analyst in me kind of going like, give me all your juicy data, and I
Yeah.
can summarize how your community has moved or changed over time.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, to know how many people actually watch Red versus Blue now. Especially like, I haven't heard them mention it on the podcast recently. It's definitely their like longest running show, but is it their most popular show? I don't know.
No, well,
So
it's
it's
definitely not the
definitely
most
not.
popular show. Come on, we both know that Ruby is the most popular show. Ruby's the one that kills the website, like
Yeah.
when you have the
Whenever the
first
new
and
season
last
starts.
episode, or mid-season end, or starting season episodes. It's just like you might as well not bother, kind of like for an hour or so until after the episode's up to actually go and go and look, because you know they're always going to have issues, which is it's great for them to kind of like to still. I'm assuming like they're still like scaling up every single time, and they're still kind of going. Sorry, shit, that still
Yeah.
isn't enough to actually kind of deal with this kind of influx of demand. And
Yeah.
I will be interested to like just across the board to see kind of like how much like Rooster Teeth will distance itself from YouTube. It always has. It's always because it's got its own website. It's always
Yeah.
kind of say come here first, kind of. But how much they'll continue to do that over time, like the No is the only show which they do, which is like actively like seeks that audience, because that is the way that they kind of like to get. You do a news program, you're not just limiting it just to Rooster Teeth.
Yeah.
So they want to get more people on board, whereas everything else is kind of, I think it's a front to get people into using the website. The issue
Yeah.
is that historically the website is actually doing god awful. So if I ever wanted to watch multiple episodes in a row, I'd watch it on YouTube instead of watching it on the site.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know. Their site's working all right at the moment, so that's positive
Yeah,
for the
it's
time
definitely
being.
it's a step in the right direction. There's a few cries out in the community that effectively, like, the community part isn't effectively part of the web page anymore.
No,
So
it's
like
quite hidden.
yeah, it's still basically the old web page.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's kind of died a death, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be recovering anytime soon. So, but they keep having people turn up and be like, "Yes, I'm going to try and do this stuff." Um, but I think the person that was doing it before, that came from Reddit, he left, and then they had someone new looking over it, and yeah, it all just seems like it's kind of in an unfixable mess.
yeah, I think it almost needs a complete kind of like either separate site or full like redesign. It needs a kind of what is you need to determine what is the best way of people actually communicating with each other, like
Hmm.
in a forum method online nowadays. I think most people will agree that Reddit probably has one of the most popular like formulas of doing that.
Mm,
But
it
it's kind
does
of
it for current events and threads, but I see, like, as much as I don't like Facebook, Facebook does it well for events and keeping things in, like, present on people's feeds,
yeah,
whereas Reddit really only does the most up to date things. And
yeah,
yeah, you can pin two topics, but
yeah, and that's the thing. It's kind of like they've got to find something in between. The size of the global community is now. It's probably even like 3 or 4 years ago was to the size that they couldn't basically control it anymore. Like the
I think it was before then, if
yeah.
I'm honest. I think it was probably 6 or 7 years ago when they were at that point, but that's
Well, I no, I think you're probably right. At that time frame, you probably are more right. You're probably looking at kind of yeah, you are looking at kind of like probably like 2012, 2013 when.
yeah.
But I also think that there's been there are not 3 or 4, but there are maybe like 10 or 11 major kind of sub RT fan groups that
Yeah.
maintain themselves
Yes. Yeah.
that kind of will still exist and still continue on to exist. It's how do new people get involved in that community, and I just think that that doesn't exist anymore. And I don't
No.
think that I think that's something that potentially lost, and I don't think it's something they will potentially ever be able to get back because
Yeah.
just because of the sheer size of what they are and what they do now.
Yeah. The reason I put it back that far in time is if you think about how long Let's Play Minecraft's been going, that's been going 6 years on its own.
Shit.
So that's why I went 6 or 7 years. Just yeah, because that's been going on for ages, and as soon as that came out, that was like massively popular. And then you think Ray's left 3 years ago as well.
Yeah,
and
and
like,
it's definitely been broken the whole. It was broken before Ray, so yeah.
Before Ray, yeah. So yeah, you've got to consider the timelines. It's like, oh no. But yeah, it's certainly a fascinating time, especially as this year there's 2 RTXs going on that you're going to.
There are indeed. I'm going to be guardianing in both Austin and London. So it'll be the first time for me in Austin, and the second time I did it in London last year as well. So it'll be interesting to see kind of like I could now kind of like finish my RTX Austin experience, as I've been a normal person ticket holder, I've been a VIP ticket holder, and now I'm going to be a guardian. So I feel like this is all of the ways that a normal person can experience RTX.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see kind of like how that goes. But it's always good fun. It's always good fun just to go out and catch up with people in the US, the few friends you make each year and you made on the site a while ago. It's always nice just to catch up. And then London is nice because I've said it before that I've got the means to go out to Austin, so I'm less bothered about being a attendee at London because it's literally like 20 minutes from my house. So
Yeah.
it couldn't basically be more on my doorstep unless it was just the other side of the Thames. Then it would basically be on my doorstep. So yeah, I'm there's a lot of people who love like the arty stuff, and a lot of great people I've met in the community who I know would never be able to make it out to Austin. So being able to let them have a decent experience of RTX in the UK is good in a load of regards, because it pushes on for other things to happen in Europe and other things to happen specifically in the UK by Roosterteeth.
Yes. Yeah, speaking of which, they announced today that they are trying to do some stuff in the UK. Like the 2 articles that I've looked at are quite vague, but it definitely looks more like they're going to have a sales force in the UK or like a distribution warehouse, as well as some other.
So I saw the Variety article. I haven't seen the secondary article that you're speaking about.
So the other article's on a website called multichannel.com, and they're talking about a global business development lead, and like what they're trying to do in the UK with RTX London and what's the other? And then like delivering things such as merchandise.
Yeah. And I guess it's because they've never, and on the Australia side, they've had Hanabi, which they've worked with and worked closely with, which have done like the Australian store as well as the RTXs. And I think in one of the ones I read, they said Eric Cherry was going to be doing stuff in London, and I thought he used to work for Hanabi. So
he did, yes, that's what it says in this article as well. So they've picked someone that has experience doing Roosterteeth stuff across seas. So
yeah, it looks like a step in the right direction. Like, I don't buy from the store anymore just because basically the UK store has absolutely naff all in it, and well, if it does have stuff, it's about 2 to 3 years old. And then the US store there are some things I might like, but you just know that there's shipping and then there's customs, and you could get it in 1 week, you could get it in 3 months, depending
Mhm.
on shipping and customs and issues that do pop up every now and then. So effectively, the last 2 years, well, I've bought everything that I want at a convention. So either at RTX or RTX London, I've just gone, hello, I would like you, and you. You may miss out on a few of the more limited edition ones, but that doesn't particularly bother me. It's just like, I like that shirt. I like that shirt. I will have you.
Yeah, I think like the thing that bugs me about the store at the moment is the really strict limited edition Jeff shirts, because some of them look cool and I would really like them, but like the criteria to get them, like be lucky and purchase them at the right time and not have them oversell an item as well, which is a whole other issue that
Yeah,
they've been having in the main store.
but
It
they are
just
doing. They're
puts me
definitely doing
off.
something about that. Though obviously they've put the
Yes.
huge journal out about changing this, where like the store and their storage and their warehouse, and even on the US side. So that will hopefully alleviate some of those issues. Being someone who's worked for a company that sells shit online, I know that kind of the disparities between stock and
Hmm.
they're human. There are always going to be human errors there, and if you're
Hmm.
working with small quantity numbers, it then can become quite a big issue.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of things I've always said with Rooster Teeth is that, and with a lot of companies, to be perfectly honest, you make a mistake. Uh, if you apologize about it and you try and solve it, I'm not bothered. Like, I mean, like, it doesn't bother me that you've made a mistake. If you make the same mistake multiple times, it's then like, well, are you really learning here? I think they weren't learning with the store over like 2017. I think they
No.
made the same mistakes they'd been making for quite a long time, and just it got by the end of Christmas last year was so out of hand that it was a major bugbear for quite a significant number of members of the community. Even had
Yeah.
like Bernie calling people who were supposed to get like Bernie hats as an apology. So as an attempt to kind of show a sign of an apology, and even it is a slight publicity stunt to kind of say kind of, yeah, we are sorry, we're kind of like, please don't be as mad as you could be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been interesting. There's certainly some new bits of merch that have come out with the like 15th anniversary that's going on. I'm just like, oh, I want that.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
couple of the posters I saw, like the one which is probably more like for like a fan service sort of one, where it's kind of
yeah.
like the neon like streetlight one. I was going like, I really like
Mm-hmm.
that poster, but I don't like it enough to be asked to deal with the hassle of. If I would go, I'd get it. The only thing I'd get, and then I'd just go like, oh, like maybe when it turns up, I'd just be like, oh, I forgot that I bought that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think like I saw the Yang and Ruby T-shirt, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I maybe want that. And then I saw the Blake and Weiss one, and I'm just like, oh, I think I prefer that one a little more because the
definitely
Yang
prefer
and
the
Ruby
Blake.
ones. Yeah, because the colors, I just prefer the colors on it and just the design. I just prefer that T-shirt more. I'm just like, oh, that's kind of an awesome T-shirt, and yeah,
So yeah, and
totally
then
pulled me
you
in.
get the other things of kind of like, I think personally a few times I forget that Rooster Teeth isn't big. Like it is in a certain regard, but it like
Mm-hmm.
completely isn't in other regards. Like because
Yeah.
of the amount of content that I consume from them, and the percentage that it takes up of everything that I watch, you kind of can get lulled into thinking that like they're a big multi-million dollar company, and they will be a
Mm-hmm.
multi-million dollar company, and especially with full screen. But they're not a multi-billion dollar company. You're not like
Yeah.
the scale and the demand of working beyond just the borders of the United States, or even just going from country to country, is something that is significantly difficult and throws in so many spanners that if
Mm-hmm.
you've never quite dealt with that, you will be amazed how much of a shit show it can be, or how annoying it can be made, or bureaucratic the entire thing is, that it doesn't need to be as complicated as it is, and it is.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, that's one of the things that, like, I forget, like, because I'm so familiar with Roosterteeth and everything that they do. I forget that one, people don't know who they are, and two, people aren't even engaged in, like, the whole YouTube kind of culture that there is, like, now. And I'm just like, oh, you just watch these videos online, and they're just like, well, like on Netflix, and like, oh, like not even Netflix, like on YouTube, like, and there's series on there, and that's like still a kind of foreign concept to quite a lot of people, which, because you and I have been watching things like this for so long, I just take it for granted that that's just something that's available, and people, yeah, and it's not something I think about having to explain to people regularly. But I guess it kind of makes sense, like when you listen to, say, Bernie or Matt talking about how they had to get people engaged in following up with a series and things like that, like when they were starting Red versus Blue. Which leads me onto my next point, where I'm going to talk about the documentary that Rooster Teeth just put out related to, the 15-year anniversary, which is cool. They've been around for 15 years. Thumbs up.
Yeah, it is quite remarkable just to think about that. It's in the documentary you hear at least two or three of them say, "Well, I thought this would be 2 years at the most or whatever," and
Mm-hmm.
none of them really projected or planned for this ever to kind of go as far as it has. And yeah, I think their constant flexibility has been kind of been there like their savior. Like
Mm-hmm.
they knew at some point that Red versus Blue would not be enough by itself, and
Mm-hmm.
they're now a multi-production company that has so many hires. Well, it's probably got over 350 people. You've got enough content going out daily that it is actually impossible for an individual to watch it all anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the scale of the growth is it's not like what was I say? It's not like hyperbolic or anything like that, but it is amazing that like there's been a couple of maybe lull moments, but they've still just had this continual growth and growth. And
Yeah.
like this year, another film's coming out. We've had a new anime start. We'll have a new cartoon start. We'll have a new anime starting later on in the year as well that
Yeah.
will potentially broaden the horizons of the company even further.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. What did you think about the documentary as a whole?
Oh dear. Oh, like, I enjoyed the content of what they put in the documentary. However, I would have made it probably significantly longer.
100% agree with you. To me, like they've done documentaries as they've kind of gone. Like there was
Yeah.
like a 30-minute one at their 10-year thing that was ended up being bundled in with I think one of the Red versus Blue
RVBX box set.
box sets, and so you go through that, and personally, like I don't think there was much new in that documentary at all. I think kind of like if you are somebody who's
No.
like a regular watcher of content and you have maybe been a watcher of content for a while, there's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely nothing in there apart from drawing on nostalgia strings, which I think
Yeah.
is it is kind of nice to kind of to show that and to kind of see that. But I just felt that there were things that it just I don't know, it just didn't feel. You're right, didn't feel like enough to me. It felt like obviously it was you can't do like the history of Rooster Teeth without talking about Monty and kind of like his impact and
Yeah.
his death and how kind of like that affected on individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt that kind of like the time devoted to that one individual incident compared to everything else that happened in the Rooster Teeth's lifespan, and obviously you may say that there hasn't been anything else as monumental as that has ever actually impacted Rooster Teeth. But
Mm-hmm.
there were just so many gaps that I felt could have been filled. There was not really much discussion on kind of it was about, oh, here's an old office, here's an old office,
Hmm.
here's an old office, here's Miles, here's Barbara, here's Gavin. These are like the three people that joined fairly early on, being large members
Hmm.
of the community.
Hmm.
And I felt that then there was nothing about like, oh, there was obviously then a bit about Achievement Hunter, but then there didn't seem to be anything about the attempts with like the No, the moving towards kind of like the live action stuff that's kind of been moved on.
Hmm.
There was a tiny comment on like the Let's Play universe. I know a lot of that stuff has happened in maybe like the last 3 to 5 years, but
Hmm.
it felt a very truncated story, and as much as I enjoyed it, it just left me wanting more than feeling satiated by what I'd seen.
Yeah. So my main issue is, well, it's the same story we've heard Bernie tell a million times. Bernie and Matt tell plenty of times. Um, they could have spent more time in each location explaining what was going on at the time. It would have been nicer to have had like more than just one of the founders or creators explain a section of the company at a time, apart from the beginning bit where you got Matt and Bernie together. And like, because then they went on one by one. Like Matt and Bernie did the first two buildings, and then you had Jeff, then Joel, and then Gus in stage 5. But it would be nice to have pairs throughout of it doing like,
Just riffing off each other slightly and
yeah,
talking
just
about.
riffing, sitting down, having a chat, having a conversation, saying, "Oh, this is what was happening at this time. This is why we made these decisions," and stuff like that, and like really expanding on it. Like I was thinking, like once I got done watching it, I was thinking like, oh, this could have easily like, if it was in my hands, it'd have probably been 6 or so hours long, and it'd have had to have been split up into a whole bunch of different parts. And then you'd have considered how it's gone on, and like you'd have talked about how like, oh, it did the community plateau at this kind of time, like after you'd released like season 3, 4, and 5, and once you then got to season 6, and there was a change in everything and video platforms and moving towards YouTube and things like that. Where did growth occur and things like that? And it just felt like there could have been so much more done with the documentary side of things, rather than just, like I said, telling us the same story again and again. And
Yeah,
just,
to me, it wasn't an arty doc. Like, compared to the standard of all of their other docs, and we've talked about this before, I don't know if we have on here or on everything that, every time that we've met,
yeah,
but I think that some of the documentaries that they've done have been very well done. They've been kind of like thought through. There's been kind of like some kind of like key points that have been brought across. Like, this isn't a documentary. This is a kind of like, it's a almost like collation of stories that, yes, we've heard multiple times before from different aspects
mm-hmm.
to kind of get that. It felt weird when they kind of like they went to the second office and they were just like, oh yeah, we couldn't get in. And there's like a little like line that comes up across like the bottom saying kind of like, yeah, they couldn't get access to the building. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and then when Joel goes to like the other office and you just
To
go to like 66 and he's
636.
just walking
Yeah.
around outside, like there's no kind of like even like a couple of people like walking through, like I don't know what companies work there
Why?
now that they
Yeah.
didn't manage to kind of get access to those buildings so that you could at least had a couple of people kind of going. I would have loved like 66 to have like a couple of the animators or even like Ryan and Gavin like walking through kind of going like, this is like the number of times that we probably ran between these two areas or
Yeah.
like the growth and talking about it. I felt that I would have loved. Yeah, and that just felt slightly kind of like missed. And then I would have loved to have had more people be involved in it. I think there
Absolutely. Yeah.
was. I might be wrong, but you had to me like the 5 founding fathers.
Yep.
You then had Jack. You had
No, Jack didn't
did Jack
turn up.
did Jack not even say anything? Did they not even say anything when they were
No.
talking about the? No, it was still all just Jeff when he was talking about
Yeah.
the Let's Play stuff. So there was nothing with Jack there.
There was nothing with Jack. He wasn't around. The only clip of Jack you got was in Aru #1, which they put a clip of on when Jeff
Slaps him in the face, yeah, and you get
Yeah.
the slap count comes up in the top corner. So okay,
Yeah.
so they spoke to
They spoke to Gavin and Miles and Kerry and Barbara.
yep, and
I'm trying to think of
Bethany.
other people now. Yeah, Bethany. They went to her office. They went to not Miles.
They went to the
Blaine's
writer's
office.
Yeah, but that was more kind of like just kind of going. This is the current one. This is what it looks like now.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really kind of like asking them about their experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, where was Brandon? Where was Chris? Like, these people who have been around for 8-9 years.
Yeah,
at this
Brandon,
point.
Chris, Blaine, like any of the ones. Like, it would have been great if they could have spoken to Jason again, or to get him to come back and talk about the early times, because maybe there's some of his stories.
Nathan,
yeah, like some of their stuff that we don't know. Maybe some of all of their stories because they've not been around to tell them. But it would be interesting to kind of to see kind of, well, yeah, this is what these guys are doing now, and this is what they were doing. Yeah.
And they never spoke to Ryan as well. And Ryan was like, was he like head of animation or something like that for a while? Not head of animation, but like he was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ryan was something in like seasons 8 and 9 of Red vs. Blue as well, and like a key position in the company on that side of things. And then he got usurped by Achievement Hunter, and it's just like, why isn't that story told within the documentary? Like,
I guess there's the techie aspect to me as well, of kind of going like, apart from that brief section of Adam Ellis talking about all of the.
That seemed really out of place. Like, now that you've mentioned it, like,
here's all the different formats that stuff was stored on historically. Look, there are some CDs. This is probably Gus. Look, there's some MIDI files. These aren't even labeled, dear Lord. And then here's a few hard drives that the stuff is on now. And he was like, it's like, okay, that's kind of cool, but you would have loved to know that, like a bit of the story about how, like, they, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see like how the site developed as well over time, and like snapshots of, at this point in time we had this version of this site going on, and we had the PHP BB forums, and then we moved to our own forums, and then somehow that fell apart and we had to move to this version of the site, and then we migrated from there upwards. And
I think to have done this to its fullest extent, or I think you should have had separate documentaries about the same thing. So you could have had a documentary like that one was there, which seemingly was more about like the buildings and kind of like the
founders.
The founders really, and kind of like some of the key influences that are kind of like the big changes that have happened. But you like, there should be like a technology one. There should have been like a people one. You should have had like a separate kind of like events one, so you could have talked through kind of like the progression of like having like RVBTO and the few things that they had going to and from cons, and then going, well, actually, let's do our own, apart from having like Gus explain kind of how shitty the first one was, and then not even really talk much about what they're doing now. It was just a quick thing like, oh yeah, we're in Austin, London, and Sydney now. It was just like a side comment that like didn't even kind of give any sort of details of the scale of that change. But I guess I wonder if we're not like the target audience for that documentary. I wonder if
that makes me question who would be, because it's locked behind the first paywall. So that's where my struggle with that comes in.
Yeah, but is it the target of like the new people to kind of go like, hey, look, kind of like this is the journey that we've been on to kind of get you to kind of like to hear for the content that you're enjoying right now.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's I don't know, it's troubling, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just weird because it didn't effectively tick any of the boxes for me. I think the simplest reason was that everything that had been said before. There wasn't anything new there whatsoever. There may have been a couple of new interviews, but I don't think they were saying anything that hadn't been mentioned before. If you would just go and find a few videos if you wanted to see it.
Yeah.
So uh, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
would be interesting to ask questions about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I think if I was going to RTX as an attendee and not a guardian, I would be going to the docs panel as have and been with you for both of the times previously to kind of go like,
Yeah.
so what was kind of like the actual aim for this documentary? Because
Yeah.
you didn't really seem to do anything new.
Mm-hmm. I caught up with, who did I catch up with? Daniel. Like, he directed things, and like
Fabella,
I
yeah.
caught up with him. Yeah, Daniel Fabello, and like I caught up with him when we were at Buffalo Billiards on the last night on Sunday in Austin. Um, and I had to ask him. I was like, are there any like stories that have come out of the documentaries that you filmed that weren't expected? And he just was like, there's kind of the subplot with Jack losing his mind at Let's Play Live, and I'm just like, no, that's not really what you want from a documentary. You want a narrative that comes out naturally, that isn't what you've really set out to achieve. So something slightly different, like Gus. Really, the narrative of the like unconventional documentary should have been something like Gus understanding like where conventions fit in the world and why they're necessary, rather than him being like, oh, I'm going to go to these strange conventions and let's see how strange they are. And
Yeah.
like, it just seems like their documentaries do seem to, not as a whole, miss like the House of Pain, the wrestling one. That's like one of my favourite ones. Jeff's tattoo one has some very poignant moments in it as well, which is really cool. But there are, yeah, other ones that seem to be a bit questionable and miss. And with the release of the latest one, I'm kind of like, a bit questionable on it.
Yeah, I think you're right that they. I have the interesting idea, like you've mentioned it before, like if you're creating a documentary, to me, you're creating something that you want other people to see, know, or understand.
Mm-hmm.
Which then, if you then put it behind the paywall, you limit like the number of people who see or know or understand it. And I'm obviously saying like
Yeah.
there has to be like some good content behind the paywall because otherwise, why would people pay for the paywall? But I'd
Mm-hmm.
be really interested to know if anybody has paid for the paywall to watch a documentary that
Mm-hmm.
potentially after like the Let's Play Live tour doc. Because I think
Yeah.
that might have got a few people to do it for that one because they'd seen a few clips about that and they talked about kind of like the fact that Jack and Jeff almost wanted to kill each other
Yeah.
at one point during it. But
Mm-hmm. I think the only way they can really like rectify that, I'd say, would be to put it towards like Netflix or something like that, or and like release them, but
after a
probably
certain
six
time
months
period, yeah,
down
a
the
certain time
line.
period,
Yeah, or,
like
yeah.
you put it out to like the free to watch, so you can kind of get and speak to people about them. But
Mm-hmm. But
I
yeah,
don't.
some of the, like I said, some of them I think didn't need to be behind a paywall, or like explicitly don't need to be behind a paywall to actually reach the audience that they want to be reaching with them. So yeah, it's just I don't know, a strange time.
Yeah,
But
it is
yeah.
strange, but I like I say we don't know and understand the full ins and outs of how the company is run, so we can never kind of go, oh well, it seems stupid, but there could be a perfectly logical reason behind it that we can't actually know because we don't run the company and they generally will not give
Yeah.
out stats about performances on many things.
Yeah.
Because then us as being you'll have like the analytical fans like us going like, oh, it's going down, like they're getting less viewer numbers, and then that'll probably spread on to the people who go like, no, no, oh, it's failing, or and you
Yeah.
just get shit kicking off within the community, which, as we've kind of seen in the last couple of weeks over one specific ad, if people want shit to kick off, shit will fucking kick off. Now,
Yeah. Hmm.
it's like slightly ludicrous as far as I'm concerned, but
I was more so curious on like the side of it from our side of the pond, whether it contravenes any of the MHRA guidelines, like whether it's actually actually in breach of any of the like regulations over here. I'm not sure if it is because it's an American product being advertised on an American channel. However, they knowingly advertising into the UK market. So I was just curious about that more than anything. But
Yeah, I think as
yeah,
effectively as long as the company can't ship or sell internationally, I don't think there's any
yeah,
issues with it whatsoever. But
yeah,
it is to me it was a highly amusing uh hoo-ha about absolutely nothing that
yeah.
because it seemed to I think the thing that amused me more was that it was I swear they had it on off topic and nobody said anything, and then it went on the podcast and then shit kicked off and I was just like seemingly like you've got the differences of audience there of kind of like people who will watch those episodes or watch
Hmm.
those specific parts of RT to actually care about those specific things.
Yeah. Hmm. I never considered it being on off. What was it? Off topic?
Yeah, I
Was
think
it?
it was.
Yeah,
I
I
think they
don't
had it
think
on
I've
off
looked at
topic
that.
before they had it on the podcast. So
Okay. No, I have no idea. So, yeah, no. It's yeah, that's a whole controversy. I don't. Yeah, I I never really gave full clear thoughts about that, but like, I don't think I really want to. And I'm not really in that realm, but
yeah, no, they like
yeah.
the Gus and Jeff went through it on off topic last, well, probably 2 weeks ago now.
Mhm.
Effectively, like they give it, and Gus put up a good journal piece on this is effectively the way that this is how we do advertising in Rooster
Yeah.
Teeth. The I think the most amusing thing out of all of it was to me watching the people that were just like, well, they're just full screen stooges nowadays, and I was just like, seriously, like what planet do you exist on that you kind of like you
Yeah.
have like your instant response is like they're being controlled by the man who's kind of like who's got like the whip over their head with the money and they're not allowed to do anything. Can you just like if they weren't allowed to do anything? Do you think half the content that they've been made would like be allowed to happen?
Yeah. It's kind of ludicrous,
It's,
but I don't know. It's been an interesting time, but the content, at least I will say, especially that of Achievement Hunter, has been good recently. It's actually been really enjoyable to see like fresh life in Minecraft, and then Mario Kart April, and Mario Party March.
yeah, I don't know what went on with the idiot, but like what was the like whether there was like a scripted reason why they killed it so quickly because they had to because like there's no way. Well, Ryan might have killed Gavin accidentally, but I generally don't think so. And then everybody else just
Yeah.
choosing to kill themselves was just the right. Oh, let's just kind of like was there a reason behind it? And I think the series they're doing now, they're doing their Achieveland with like
Yeah.
the people who are in these episodes
Hmm.
seeming to be kind of like not the main crew for quite a lot of the time seems to suggest that something was going to come up which meant that they couldn't actually film. They might have started something and then gone, oh shit, we're actually not going to be able to do this, let's just kill it off as fast as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also like, yeah, they might have accidentally lost people in the first two episodes that
We might have been the
were
one.
kind of key to actually keeping that series running,
Yeah,
so they couldn't keep them around, which is yeah, certainly interesting. But yeah, that series could have been, I don't know, could have definitely been longer, and I reckon they were hoping it'd be longer, but it got a bit messed up.
yeah. The thing is, to me, is kind of if they really wanted to do it, like effectively Gavin dies within like the first 30 seconds of the video. Of that
Mhm.
video two or whatever it is, maybe three, whatever.
I think it's three. I think no one
Dies
died
in
in
two.
episode two.
Yeah. So he dies within the first 30 seconds of it. If they generally wanted to, that doesn't ever have to appear on screen. You just reload up, put him back in where he was, and you just continue on like nothing's happened. And I think they're all capable
Mhm.
of doing that if they wanted to do it. It just, I don't know. Yeah, have to ask the question at some point in the future, see if they'd give an honest answer about it, or they may have said something on off the topic or off and other things, and I've completely missed it. But
Yeah.
it just
Oh,
felt
well.
too convenient.
Yeah, yeah. Fair enough, fair enough. Right, let's wrap this conversation up for the time being. Russell, where can we find you across the internet?
You can find me Rustman2K for pretty much all gaming and related things, and my Twitter handle is at @ism.
Awesome, awesome. I can be found across the internet at Destroy Topham or at Etherfar. That's YCHAFAR. That's like your Twitter and Instagram, maybe some other places too that I don't maybe know about. So yeah, we'll see.
Gotta go find them all.
Yeah. So cool. Thank you for being my guest this week, Russell.
No problems. Thank you very much for having me, good sir.
You're welcome, and thank you everyone for listening. Have an exciting week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.